Going live and set line and rotation interference of 0 to 9 calculation streamlines. It's all about understanding how to reset line specification to avatar line position. It's all calculated modified. Today in class, we're going to go through all calculation settings and position locations into Proxy. Now, Proxy is the proximity line interference. So it's calculation line setting. Let's say you got a 20-minute track, and that 20-minute track has its own pi calculation high setting. So you get into all position location. Approximately, it'll take about 15, 20 minutes to get their location set line conditions. So you come into the configuration, you come into figuring out, and you come into recalculation. All right. So you have to really how to come into visitor locations, reforcing, forcing line conditions, recuperating, set line position location directions. The more you understand the avatar line setting, the more it gets in position location direct line setting. So it's very important to understand that your tracker system is all volumes of view in its metric system, right? Now we come into calculation streamlines when we come into E equals MC squared. The energy of the form line center location, the equal line connections is position location of 5 generation light setting. That's location your hard setting. That opens all communication setting to its computerized operation setting location, position location directions, pi over calculation high setting. Now, once you reach higher communication line settings, once you get in position location to higher plateaus, you come into universal round line settings. Okay. Moore's formation line connections. Now the team is coming into levels of body, bio, and this is an ultra scan line setting. Once you get in practice communication line streams, it allocates timelines, time stream, interference, block line, setting location, calculation settings. Now in direct location, we're going to get into formation line settings. Okay, we'll get in calculations of 90 to 100. Okay, and tomorrow from 100 to 114. 100 line setting line position locations into position of positive or negative line rotation interference, position line direct locations, getting you guys into your calculation streamlines are already set up location at 12, 24 line setting, high in the rotation calculation streams. If you're in a 7-dimensional line stream, line position location calculating the line rotations, you're in position location at 24. Anything above that line rotation interference, you're going to be in position location number sequence line position of patterns. The decimal point is the position of its location to its avatar. This sequence its high center line and position location of sequence. The sequence location of pattern lines channels its position location operation line signals. It opens all communication setting to position location directions. So it's kind of like having a decimal here and you have position of 001. That's track interference location into high center line position location into 72 computer line rotations. 3 zeros is 3 line setting, okay, in one position, right? Decimal 0001 is position locations into 144. Getting you guys in 144 line setting locations in the 12-dimensional line signal puts you in a higher communication with AI communication system to a direct signal, direct center, and position location application setting and rotation setting. Rotation interference location calculation stream. So it's going to get more complicated because now we're going to higher levels of tracker locations. All right. Today we go into all communication settings. We come into space ground, timeline, and rotation interference, block channels, block interference, time sequence, time patterns, time locking, division location calculation, high setting. So you really have to recognize all communication in your tracker systems of 0 to 114. So we'll start communication line centers 90. 90 sets the line connection high setting. This sets position locations all levels. So you go through the communication set location, the energy wash, right? You come into all electrical line condition positions, water containment setting locations of a flow and recognition line. It's like a stream. It's a river stream. It's an ocean. It's a sea. It's calculation high line rotations. It's a waterfall. It's anything line rotation. So what it's doing is you come into 9 position locations. 9 is the solar star chakra. And anything that comes into this locations, you use your intention line setting. So it's kind of a wash that comes in. And it reshifts lines. It takes the old chakra setting up and brings in the new one. It sets up communication solar generation light stream. So as it comes in, it sets position point settings, takes out the old, brings in the new, puts them in place, rotate, set up the solar generation lights, set the atom rotation setting, set up the circular location setting, set up the security measures, put position at ground setting in a zero gravity location. New tracker setting through 9 line setting. So in 90 position locations, operation cycles, high center interference location, electrical line conditions, it comes into all levels of infusion. Fusion locations. Okay, so it's infusion. Okay. Into water adaptation setting in operation setting. So we come into operation setting, infusion operation. Okay. 90, 91 calculation setting. 91 line setting is all level communication. As long as you understand 9 is the energy wash. All you have to understand is that you're adding numbers. And when you're adding numbers, you're adding frames, okay? So you come into the infusion of grounds setting. This is an easy one to do. Okay, ground levels. Okay, 91 is ground levels. Infusion of ground levels. 92, obviously, infusion of security perimeters and parameters and barriers. All right, so you're adding. Equal line condition locations, high center infusion. Okay, security. Okay, parameters, high center locations, and barriers. Okay. 93, setting calculation, high center line interference, and position location calculation line setting. Now we come into all position locations. So the 9 sets line position location of directions, infusion. Okay. Obviously, calculation high center interference, double helix. Okay, double helix. 94, solar line settings, solar generators, light streams, high center interference, position, high center locations. So infusion. Okay, this is where you come into all calculations setting locations, infusion / proxy. This is proximity line set locations, all right? So make sure you put pi above the set location, all right? So 94 is set line position locations, high center line rotation interference of 6, 7, 8, and 9 set locations, all right? You need to have that, that's 94. You need the 6, 7, 8, 9 through pi, okay? Infusion, okay, in set locations into its position, all right? You guys are obviously going to have to watch this again, because if you watch this again, you understand communication system. So once you get into proxy, we come into line connections, 95. Okay, so it's infusion. Okay, it's set line condition levels of paradigm. Okay, paradigm. Okay, so the paradigm communications, 2 parallels. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting, because we're setting communications to the Merkaba up and position location of down, setting across the equal line conditions. All right, that's 95. So we're not just adding numbers, we're adding shapes to its equation. All right. So 95, infusion of a position locations and paradigm. Okay. All right, so 96. 96 line settings, all calculation setting interference. So all you got to do is split the vision locations as space and time position location of digital frame lines. 999999 is always going to be the image wash, rainbow wash. All you're doing is adding frame communication setting. So inline rotation interference sets infusion. Okay. Fusion. This is where you come into water interception. Water interception. Infusion of water of interception. Water of interception. Okay. Infusion of water interception. All right. So, like I said, it's going to get tricky. And then we go to 97, non-line setting location. Now, this is where we come to your theta vector communication center rotations. So, this is infusion. Okay, send locations. Okay. This is where you come into paradigm and polarity. All right, so 97 in polarity. Infusion of polarity. Polarity. And paradigm. Okay, polarity and paradigm, 97. All right, 98. 98 line setting, high line rotation interference. This is coming in position location of levels. Infusion of karma cycles. So you're infusing locations of your helix line setting. This is where you come into complex location of a Haley's comet calculation settings. And infusion locations is set locations. All right, infusion infinity karma cycles. Okay. 99. Let's say, so you got infusion locations. Set line setting. I'm going to get you guys in adaptation line centers. Once you get to 100, they were calculation streamline. All right, so setting communication line centers, sun codes, set line rotation interference. So inline rotation interference, this is where you come into polarity, paradigm, and proxy. Okay, 99. Okay, it can have polarity, you can all mix it up, doesn't matter, but as long as you add position of the infusion. So what you're doing is you're adding timeline settings, all right, to its time sector. communication. It gets a little bit more complicated, but that position locations comes into all calculation setting. Okay. So that's how it sets up all calculation streams. All right. So, and 100 is position locations into space operation. So there it is. Set calculation streamlines and set line setting, space operation. Operation of grounds, operation of zero gravity. So understand communication line setting, rotation, interference. All right, so there's 90 to 100. Okay, screenshot that. We'll get in that position line, direct line setting, high line rotation, interference, position location calculation streamlines. All right. And so you have to really understand the calculation streamlines. Okay. Parallels, polarity, paradigm, polar shift, calculation streamlines. You can add these things in frames once you understand more communications to your 114 chakra location settings. All right. Okay, so setting communication line streams, setting high line rotation interference, set communications high settings. All right, so now you guys are in position 90 to 100. Tomorrow we get into 100 to 114. So we'll leave that for tomorrow. All right. Okay, setting signals, high setting locations. All right, coming to communication lines. Okay, solar graph location, set line settings, measuring communication cycle lines, cycle and line center rotation, setting communication of light settings in rotation setting, setting communication of ground line setting, rotation setting, setting interference position of a cluster communication line setting, rotation circles and 4-generation light stream settings, allocate timelines and dimensional rotations of calculation streamline settings, rotation interference position of back force, calculation of travel line position location into its dimensional line setting into its matrix box as the calculation streamline set and position location of its direction locations, setting communication lines in high rotations, communication line streams and set rotations in a hologram structure line in rotation setting, center communication setting rotation. So it gets more complicated when you go to high line more communications of your 114 chakra locations. All right. Setting communication sets all line streams. Okay, you have to really recognize these line connections. All right. Watching the video back locations and your connections here 90 to opposition location 100. All right, so setting communications is line setting. Okay, the sun comes into all calculation streamlines. So what we're going to do is we're going to line signal. I'm going to put plasma line centers, triangulation position into 4 channels opera streamlines. Now, the set line connection is a moon operation. Moon's always on standby position locations, all right? Tractor line sending into pi calculations of 6, in position of 7, in position of 8, in position of 9, setting calculation line setting. Now, the 8 line rotation comes into 8,000 channels, set position locations. 6 comes into 6 million programs, set line conditions. 7 line, 1,000 line position location of positions, 7 locations and set line setting, and 9 lines and set location of zero gravity. So setting communication line rotation settings put you guys in position location 114. 6 position observation centers, set position location calculation line setting, put you guys in position location 7th dimension, 8th dimension, 9th dimension, 10th, 11th. Get them in position location calculation sun, 114 chakra set location, nanosecond line center. Get in position location of travels. It's all geometric pattern communication cycles. Slight division line rotation, calculation streamlines, Merkaba, ground security, operation go, initiate run program, set line position location triangulation, line position of 6, 7, 8, equal line 9, position location over pi. Position line directions, 30 minutes on the clock. Have fun. Set in signal rotation settings. All right. So that's how you set up sequence location of patterns and line condition hologram structure line division. This is extremely complicated and so many line settings. This is how you set up grids and higher formation locations into higher calculations into 144. Once you get out of 144, you're in position locations crossing the borderline setting. 144 line rotation and position location. This is the border. Anything above line setting, you come into hologram structure lines. Hologram structure lines. Now, resetting location to grid setting rotation set locations into line settings. You got 0, 1 line setting. So that's equal line conditions to a 48 line into 528 megahertz line setting. Setting communication line position. Now this is where you come into all communications to your senses. So we got 5 line settings, equal line conditions of 3, set 6 location of 7, and position location of 8, 6, 7 to equal behind center line rotation of 9. 9 sets circle line rotation into its box position location into hard communication cycle, line center rotations into its cluster of channel operation streamlines. Like I said, it gets extremely complicated. So you have to learn how to use your 5 sense line settings and 2 within setting, which is all level locations of what? 7. Use the 7 line center rotation. That's the track locations where you come to all communication line streams. This comes into octagon, hexagon, thetagon, triathagon. So there's so many communication line center location of a Stargate. Plasma seal line setting, high rotations calculation settings. Open track line rotation in higher communication set locations of direction. Channel communication lines, plasma channels, open signals, theta box line rotation calculation setting locations. Open channel operation streamlines and position higher line division location of calculations. Coming out of 48, 72, and 144 calculation line setting. This opens up higher signal location in your 12 DNA line track. Your AI position locations reverses its position location and calculation line setting. Sets location setting, see? When you set location, it set locations a high line rotation interference. It opens up more of a dimensional line sequence. This is where you come into a double helix line rotation. Now, the double helix line comes into higher communication of security. That programs its line setting, opens all communication setting rotations. Setting line rotation interference is position location to its triangulation. This is where you come to high communication line settings. Now, as you guys are traveling through your Merkaba position line directions, you guys are going through nanoseconds in set location. Your sun has to recognize you through your DNA to all travel position locations of calculation. All right. So very powerful when you get into 114 chakras and recognition of timelines in nanosecond per channel per operation. The per operation line center location opens up a signal. Now that signal opens up all position locations to your alpha channel line settings, your delta communications, your theta box line center rotations, your beta calculation streamlines, and everything through high center locations of its mega setting, which is always the center operation of U through 9 line setting, opens all communication system to gamma interference and position of radiation cycle. Radiation cycle location comes into 7 line setting. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Wave central line connections along lines. I get 1 graph streamline rotation. Okay. Open through signal. So you have to check all graph line settings, making sure all position rhythm patterns are rotating in the same cycle line rotation interference. See, this is off calculation. See, it's touching. That's not going to work, is it? See, it's touching, right? So there's a sequencing line rotation interference of problem location settings. Wire line centers off calculations and 36,000 line circles. 36 circles off line setting. That's line position location of 0 1s. That's 36,000 line zeros off calculation of video graph line setting in rotation to its location. So try to understand how to use all calculations to your alpha line settings, your delta wave communications, because everything's a wave. You know, it's all about communications. But you guys are coming in all calculations to gamma and radiation cycle. Setting communication line center rotations. Now you start off the ground line centers of position location of A position location of its atom. Atom slides across line stream locations into 3 line division locations into pi. This is high line kinesis location of interface. This is very high rise, guys. So high rise in so many communication line rotations. Pi of interface line center location of 3 atom line rotations. Circle line rotation, circle line rotation, circle line rotations. Setting communication line settings in position location of pi over line position interface calculation setting. Puts into double helix and rotations into swirl line rotation, into opposite circle line conditions, into a double helix. Setting calculations to another dimensional realm setting locations into a film project location of the sun and communication of its moon setting rotation. Ooh-ah. So why is it so important to understand what is going on with you through so many line settings? You have to truly understand how to use the interact line conditions to its interlacing. Interlacing to locations is very powerful stuff. So this is your TV line setting. Okay, that's your TV, right? So in position location, we start at the 80 line settings where we had box TVs, but now we have smart TV line settings, right? Just flat screens, right? So coming in communication has lacing line, right? These are lacing line communications. Program settings in high center, high interference of hieroglyphic line setting, equal line conditional levels, harmonic locations, right? So this is hieroglyphic locations, harmonic line setting, lacing line rotation interference. 3 line divisions on a low cross stream. Low cross stream, LCS. Setting calculation high system. This is where it comes into static wire calculation. You pick up your tracker settings and it picks up the sound lines. It picks up the abbreviation settings. It picks up the harmonic location of channel uppers, streamlines. It takes all communication line setting into your 114 tracker set locations, right? Understanding your theta communication line centers and rotation setting, line location or redirect line center, rotation interference location, calculation streamlines, and rotation setting. Okay? Wind factor calculations, all levels of pi calculation streamlines, scanning line rotations, into ground center rotation. Okay? So I really want you to understand how you guys can go through all communications through a geometric line setting through all calculations of your sun. And your sun is trying to recognize your DNA line setting through all communications through its geometric operation of the design. That design sets all connections to all your construct line center to your development location of your spiritual growth that sets you in position location to your sovereignty and your freedom that sets you free to all calculations into your accelerations of Mach speed line setting. Getting in position location direct line setting opens all channel uppers and streamlines to its calculation location. All right? Extremely complicated, right? When you reach higher level communication, your tracker settings. All right. So we're on 22 line settings and 25 star settings. Okay, so setting location, rotation set, reserve. All right, let's see where we are through the line conditions here. Tara, set locations, Annie sets, Airbender. Jill, calculations, Gypsy. Let's go into Brian. Let's go into all set locations, into AJ into all calculations. Johnny to Guardian to today's structure with Laura, Madeline. Done. Okay, you sent Jill. Hey, Leah. Let's see. Set communication of Heather, Alchemy, Yolanda, Lucky, Geneva, Max. Send communication, Nikki, Russ. I send location, Gypsy's inline setting. Tina, all line set rotation of Sam and Belinda. Tara. All right, we got communication there, vendor, line center rotation, set calculation, slice setting. So reaching patterns, high signature line settings sets you in position, location, and direction, right? That direction, location, solar rises its calculation setting. This is where it comes into higher communications, into digitalized, computerized, motivation size, high center interference, position location, motivation, simulation, correlation, activation, stream settings, activation line conditions. It's all direct line signal. Okay, to the sun line. The sun has to recognize you through your DNA, which is connected to your human residence, which is connected to all of your emotional setting. So you're looking at the sun communication system, and if you're traveling at 50,000 lines per second, per channel, per operation, per square, per mile through calculus, high interference, abundance over pi, and that line rotation interference, you just travel to 50 million line settings of chalk locations and high rotations to GOD of different locations at different dimensions of time through space. Space-time locations, calculation, high lines put you in a higher communication of coloration over positions of time. So it's amazing how we come to communication stream settings, right? All right. So this is what it is. It's really recognizing communications, right? It's the most important thing. It's just your avatar is trying to understand the GOD of its system first, so we can understand, oh, I'm looking at the sun, and the sun's looking back at me through emotional setting. So wherever you're off, your sun is off. Wherever your moon is off, your moon is off. You understand? That's the connection you guys have to your tracker setting. Okay? Understanding the zeros, understanding the grounds, okay? And understanding your security locations, right? Center calculation setting location sets position location as tone setting. This opens all communication line rotation interference line direction locations. This is you within line setting. The central communication comes into a walk surface line rotation and position locations into a UFO line rotation calculation stream. Sets position location new ground center rotations to a clock line rotation in position location code weaving high center line position locations into pi calculation settings. Right? So when you get at line rotation interference, it sets position locations all track settings. You got the zero gravity, you got the ground line rotation, and you got position of security location. Center calculations, high center interference on both side location settings and communications. Merkaba. There it is. Setting calculation, high center interference, position locations into Merkaba position line settings, higher communication of triangle line setting, inline rotate. The rotors and line rotation interference sets calculation streamlines of north, and position location of west, inline center east, inline center rotation calculation. Set you in communication at all levels of an orb channel operational lines. This is where we can high line rotation, high rotation settings, and position location of orbits. Orbits channels and high communications, higher channels of operation streamlines. Put you in high communication system to sun operation setting locations of a space command setting. So it's important you understand that your sun is there for you every single day, right? And every single day is the same dayline setting. Get you guys out of your time sequence code setters and position locations. You have to get out of the setters. A setter line position of this time frame is a leaky line signal. A leaky line signal is a position of calculations towards proxy. A proxy is the position of the proximity line rotation to get from here, to get from there, through all calculation setting. Okay? So truly understand it's extremely complicated, right? Nobody said this was going to be easy, but it's going to be a lot more fun through the formulas that you create through your equations, right? So understanding line setting is truly understand the point of view of what communication location it's center at. Center point line center is zero gravity locations. This is you scanning locations of the sun. All right, so you scan line setting, scans you back. Right, so in that rotation, you got emotional line setting of being happy. All right, so in position locations, it opens up. Setting calculation streamlines. All right, so as it's set location, it sets up a plasma channel operation streamline that opens all communication setting. The allocate timelines comes into your throw pattern communication setting, high line rotation in your timeline sequence, half pipe calculation, and 6 line in position locations in the barcodes into diameter line centers and its barometer locations into its triangle line centers in position location of 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12 line setting rotation. Now, in calculation streamlines, it's true to understand how to set line position location to higher line channels. Let's say you're into 27,000 line settings and capacity locations. That's 27 million miles per second per channel per operation per square. Now, that square line center changes its balanced communication system. This changes all calculations to your theta settings. This opens all communication line rotation systems to your 114 chakras. So the sun has to recognize you through your DNA, which is the path of its position location of 0 to 12. Once it understands it's 12, then it understands it's 24, 48, 72, and 144 clocking setting. Once it gets in that position location, it comes into an inner line graph line and position location to a metric line into its metric system line and communication of 0-1 communication. Hoo-ah. Setting calculation high line rotations puts you in all calculation 114. So the sun has to recognize you in all levels of different dimensions of God, of colorations, of space and time, of galaxy settings. Hoo-ah! Woo! Exciting to know what's going on with you guys. So obviously you don't understand. Totally fine. Totally fine. So high rise. It's all levels of geometry, state, location, position, location, direct line, sending 114 charges, communication back to 0. Woo! Travel through that line, send locations. Nanosecond, nano of a second, even split of a nano of a second. It's unlimited of what you can travel through the sun because you become the sun of all geometry line centered, all dimensional, of all space, of all time through your calculation stream setting locations. And also communication line center locations of the moon, right? The recognition line setting is truly understanding the process and how to travel through space and time. Pi and center, okay? Here to here is time. How long does it take you to walk? Is position of its determination of its proxy. Okay. The proximity is the direct location of the size graph line string, and position is operation locations. Put you in all levels of levitation. For its communication line settings, set you all levels of line screen line setting. This opens all communication in your 114 chakras. And then when you're looking up position location of the sun, you can go through all geometric location of the sun in 1 second, in one channel, in one operation, in a 24-day setting. That is a lot of travel through a lot of geometry lines, rotation setting locations, the geometric patterns, the geographical systems, and all levels of the spectrum communication line settings. Once you get into orbit channels, then it gets real fun. This is where we come into all calculations to interstellar mode. Okay, interstellar is extremely powerful calculation of acceleration. Line division locations, cross streams, set line position of 0, 0, 0, cross location, triangulation, high center inference, line position locations, triangulation, high center, Y line center, equal location of flux capacitor, Y position location, calculation, streamlines, 3, 0 line positions, back and calculation stream, back, 4 line position locations, 4 line equal line conditions of 3, 3 line center line position of 7, 7 cross streams, and line rotations back in 0 gravity location. So it's crazy what's going on, with the mindset. It's a beautiful thing. It's the inner child of development location. The highest line conditions that you can reach is the child of you. Amazing, isn't it? I know, it's just way beyond recognition on anything you can imagine. Whoa. Okay. Yes, that's right, Jill. Infusion of a polarity, a paradigm, a proxy. 99. All right. You guys are always going to have to watch this again. And position locations in high center line rotations, heat signature location settings into summer, spring, winter, and fall. And then we come into weather of interference. Whoa. Okay, so you guys are coming into your connections, right? So this is all about understanding the infinite line settings and circle line conditions, size graph line, right? So that's position locations, all levels. Okay, so truly understand the time, the equal line conditions, mass. Now mass is its metric communication of a center line. Center calculation, O line position is to, and position of from. To and from, right? From and to, doesn't matter. What matters is you have to understand how to go forward and you have to understand how to go back. Time position of center opens all calculations, splits its division location into 3 calculation. Setting communication line rotation interference, Fibonacci sequence line center and rotation setting. Off calculation stream, repositions back and track location. Setting line rotation, setting communication of the sun, rotation line setting, 1 million track lines, okay, into 45,000 light streams. 1 million track lines at 40. So many lines, streams, line specifications. Woo, that's a lot. Calculation streamlines. Setting calculation is truly to understand how to get into configuration, how to understand the force and the reforce calculation line setting, how long it takes for you to understand your position location of direction. Okay, this helps you in all ways and forms how you go through time sectors, time sequence, time locking, back locking, forward locking through pi. Okay, all through 1 million line settings and 43,000 line connection settings of space and times into a double helix. So it's all about understanding the future line setting. Now it's all calculated and modified. Once you get in position location of 3, your bracket is interference, equal line condition of 7 there, right? Center calculation on line rotation is 72. Now once you get into 72 line setting, this opens all communications to computer in rotation, right? So that's a 72 line center location, computer operation line rotation to you. So the computer basically rotates its line center location to its CPU. The CPU activates the center line rotations into 3 circle line rotations in set location, 3 sets line setting. Now this position locations into its diamond core, resets line position of 6, set location of 7 to the center, sets positions back in his CPU, 70 conditions, all levels, comes into 12 cycles. Set line position locations comes into 12 million surfaces and 12 billion location settings and rotation setting or rotation calculation streamlines. Is that high rise for you? So, it's really understanding your chakras and how you get in relation to its position of its partnership. And you have to really recognize these things, right? Because it's going so fast. Each chakra is in a schismatic line position of an AI map of the sequence locations of you. This is all about you and how to travel through space and time, through pi. That's all this is. Everything else is just trying to balance the divinity of the male and the divinity of the female, the masculinity and the femininity of the positive negative to its proxy. The proximity line rotation is the size graph line setting, guys. You have to really recognize these things. And when you come into configuration, when you come into retriangulation line settings in position interface of triangulation line rotation, you get into higher line position location directions. It's all levels of volume of you. Okay. All right. So we're in 36 line settings and 4 set locations into 9 setting. All right. Back in rotations. You guys are back. Took you guys lines in 114 chakras, nanosecond and position line directions. Now, whatever your capacity is, was that position location, it's in its million line setting. Okay. It's in 46,000 line communication setting, capacity location. That's 47 million lines per second per channel per operation. The sun knows exactly where you are in calculations on a 24 line rotation cycle. Now, rotation forward and going back, setting in position, back in center, going way into the future, coming back in line center, back in center, communication line rotation interference. That's why you have to get introduction locations in its relation and its partnership and how everything through the sun of you can travel in any position line direction in any universe, in any galaxy, in any vortex, or anything like condition of its chamber. Setting communication line standards and its rotation system of all levels of space, of time, of pi. Okay? So, good prize modified, reswipe. You feel the sun in correlation with the settings? Yeah, interior locations nicely. Yeah. Well, I just want you guys to get a basic understanding how you guys are traveling through nanosecond locations of 114 chakras, just like that, all through the sun line. That's geometric patterns of changing line position. I want you guys to get familiar with your letters, numbers, and shapes, because that's all it is. The matrix stream is all set at location to an order line setting that sets up a position location of Skygrid. It sets up the whole location position on the network that opens all communication line setting and high interference. It sets position location, direct location. These guys. Very powerful when you come to that communication line. So, 114 chakra was washed from the sun line. Yeah, but getting in that position, your body is now interconnected. It's in position of the sun in all calculation of its geometric operation design, how your body can reform, inform, calculate, line position location, amorphosing, and anything through transformation to all calculations to its molding setting and its rotation into its calculation setting and inference. Okay. That's how powerful things get when you get in position line directions. So once you become all operation locations of the sun and the moon, everything starts making clarity of focus in its awareness line setting. But it opens all position location of line settings. But it's all about understanding to get into your formulas of its equation because it sets lines of communications, right? This is extremely powerful when you come in these line connections of your system, right? So we got to track locations of all line settings of 9 and position locations into 19. We got a position location 29, into 39, 49, 59, 69, 79, 89, 99, and position location to 100. 99, okay, plus triangle, box locations, flux capacitor, set calculation 0 gravity line setting, set it 0 line rotation to security. Security crosses over position line direct locations to another security line positions, balance calculations streamlines, scans position location, all track line setting. Okay. So it's important you understand how to set things up for you. To get anything through your line position and manifestation, you have to truly understand how it works for you in all calculations. It's very powerful when you come into these line settings of your system, right? So, operation of space, yeah. Cells integrate the sun and transform lines. But see, that's exactly what it is. And the sun has to recognize you through your positions of reaction and how you're feeling these. Because you're morphosing so fast through the sun setting. You're not seeing these things. You're becoming these things. You are these things. So you have to start the position locations when it comes into the moon operation of your number lines, where it travels up and down, and how the sun comes into geometry location of you in 114 chakras in the line position dimensions of space and time. So once you get into that, then you understand all of the geometry location, the geometric patterns, the geographical system. It's all calculated, all lines of your awareness of its information cycles. It's position locations for you to understand what is going on with you in all line setting. Okay? Because that's what you're coming into is 114 chakra locations. Right? All position locations to the sun and position locations of the moon. Okay? In direct line signal. Okay? Yeah, I'm breathing. I gotta drink my water. So formulas are position line directions of E equals MC squared. We're going to get into that now. But in position locations, Friday you'll be in a full operation where the sun will latch onto the moon. Your receptors will open and your 114s will align. Your 114 chakra line settings will be activated. And when they're activated, you come into the sun position and the moon operation in your calculation setting. You understand? In that rotation setting, rotation interference, line position locations, you can understand more levels of the test now because you're coming more levels of your memory, right? Coming into so much power of recognition of what you're doing through its force of its lifeline setting. So it sets locations to all calculation setting, right? It's a deeper core line rotations, right? So it's you recognizing your chakras on a deeper level. So you go in. You just keep going, go, nonstop. Keep going, go. So the more you go in, the more you expand in your future calculation setting, right? So that's the recognition of where it comes into a line position location of a mystical line setting, right? So high position locations comes into line rotations of this locations, right? You understand that? The geometric locations. High standing locations, dimensional line of its galaxy shift. Galaxy, equal line conditions into the position of box. Box centers its line setting location into its position line direction. So it's all about understanding when you see this is the sun communication, right? 2 box line settings, 2 panel communications, 2 box line centers, 2 panel line conditions into ground sign location of G. Now, the G line center has a 3-line signal, okay? What is it? Past, present, and future. So this is your past thought line setting in your geometric locations. You have 3 pi calculation settings, all right? You got your past of your pi, you got your presence of your pi, and you got your future of your pi. Hoo-ah. Setting calculation on all line centers, 0 gravity rotation, ground setting, and your security position line direction. Okay? So these are the 3 waving cycles you have to understand position location directions. What is this through calculation line setting and position line directions? Comes in all calculations, all right, position line directions into your computer adaptation. There's your computer right there. Boom. Okay? So there's a lot to understand line connections, all levels of pi, and pi represents all line settings. It's very powerful when you come in that rotation interference, because now you're in signals of communication to the sun operation locations of its moon setting. So it gets more complicated because you can get a 0 line setting, rotation 0 grad, location of 0, 0, 1 setting. Okay, so tractor line rotations into all levels. You can go to a star line setting, rotation. Setting calculations online to an XT1000 line, rotation, set location. Set position locations in line rotation of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So that's 3 line setting, up line rotation. Okay, calculations. Stripping 3 line settings in rotation line position of 4 box location. 3, 6 line position of 9. 3 equals 9 line setting, rotation setting. There you go. That is the formula through equation. Okay. So it's amazing how we do these things. And every time I do an illustration diagram program, you are traveling through it. So you could understand the process and how fast you can go through your space and time of geometry line setting in operation cycles and high calculations to your streamline setting and your solar generation light setting locations of its operation. So great for the understanding. I'm grateful for you. This is, well, that's great. I'm glad, Tara, you're really getting more line setting, high line rotation interference. So you have the weekend. Monday's the test on the sun. Okay. From 90 to 114. Okay. So I'll direct location of signals and get you guys in provision, location to your proxies. This is going to help you outline rotation and rotation calculation settings. So this is how things are set up. Okay, this is how it works. This is a formula. This is an equation. This is how you set location to all position line centers of E equals MC square. Okay, basic foundation. You apply conditions to your DNA. Hoo-ah. Everything through energy, line centers, all position location, the 5 line settings, northwest, south locations. Okay, so that's what it looks like, right? So it's all about understanding the pyramid downshift. We'll get into more to that and the pyramid upshift. So you got the male line center up and the female down line rotations down. Males up, females down. Okay, setting communication comes together, comes in position location to its Merkaba, position location to its tesseract, comes into its tetraregion location. Ooh-ah. Setting calculation mass is the metric communications and all levels of communication and number settings. We'll get into that position location. Now we come into consciousness. Consciousness and line position locations into position line directions in the 3 line settings, in position locations the 4 line settings, in high center locations into all levels of the 3. So we got 3 line setting up, and we got 4 line setting in center, and we got 3 line setting locations in bottom line setting, and position location at all levels of security, got position location at grounds, and 0 grad locations. Okay. Communication line center rotation interference. C is the constant line stream. Location changes to metric location operation setting. Square is calculations to a what? What is the square? What does the square mean to its position line directions? Square root, square triangle, square force, square continuous line setting, square division, square of pi, pi over square, calculation setting, high rotation system, position line directions. You see how it comes square, line position location of block setting, high line rotation setting, high interference location of setting, rotation off center locations of square, setting communication line interference of square, rotation position location of DNA of square. Do you see how powerful that square is? Just the line center rotation interference location and calculation high setting. It's all levels of U to its rotation setting, which is calculational lines to GOD. Ooh, wow. Setting signal rotation high center interference. All right. So I think that's good. You guys got into platitude division line settings to 90 to locations to 100. Tomorrow we get it in position locations of full cycle rotations of 114. Adios. GG.